lead. I want you to go the other way.
I'm going to lean this way a little bit so you can see technology doesn't work the way we expect it to work at times. What's going on, family? Sorry we're late, but such is life when you have children and whatnot. But I'm looking at my son. He's over in the corner. But we were talking last week. To make a long story short, my name is Brian. This is my page, so I guess you would know who I am. And this is my ex, Keisha. So we was actually having a conversation last week about, I don't even know what, but somehow we came up on the topic of co-parenting. And, you know, we're divorced, been divorced about a year now, I think. And we're just talking about how a lot of people that we know are having challenges with, you know, co-parenting and being able to get on one accord or the same page in order to facilitate what's in the best interest of the child. So we thought it'd be a good idea to come on and just share, you know, our story in hopes of helping somebody else. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, helping somebody else navigate through, you know, the difficulties and challenges of life. I don't even know where to start, actually. Okay, I can start here. So, again, we've been divorced about a year. We were separated for 2 years before that, and we were married for a total of 10 before the divorce was finalized. I left on my own accord, slightly. But when I left, I wanted to make sure that her and my son were, you know, taken care of. So I did everything in my power, financially and elsewise, to help facilitate that. Hey, Auntie, how you doing? So, you know, I was paying bills at that household as well as my own household. And I was spending about $1,000 plus a month on just that household. And, you know, I still had my own household to take care of. But I did it because I wanted the financial burden to be as light as possible for her, in the midst of her going through the emotional turmoil of us being separated and ultimately getting a divorce. You got anything on that?
That sounds good. I really appreciate how he was still pretty much still being a provider in the home he did not live in. So that was definitely a blessing. And I applaud him and appreciate him for that, because the typical man, not at all, would not do anything of such. So
it's like, I'm really thirsty. I apologize. And this hot outside.
Too.
It's cool in here, but we just came from outside, so.
And we haven't been this sitting this close in a while. So maybe that's why too.
So, but anyway, we were having a conversation last week, Friday, just about how important it is to co-parent. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we're divorced, like I said, for about a year now. And we make a conscious effort to co-parent our son, who's sitting over in the corner with his headphones on, doing whatever he's doing on the phone. But, you know, it's very important. I talk to a lot of people, a lot of guys, females as well, that, you know, have issues with co-parenting. And it's very important that we set our own issues aside, if you will, our own personal gripes or feelings or displeasures or upsetness, for lack of a better word, mm-hmm. and really focus on what's best for the child or children at hand. There was a lot that we had to overcome. We haven't always been as cool, never, you know, disrespectful or anything like that, but, you know, going through a separation and ultimately a divorce can be very emotional. And it was so more emotional for her than it was for me, because, again, I did decide to leave. So the person who exits the relationship first usually has the least amount of turmoil to deal with, or emotional baggage, if you will, to unpack. So for me, I didn't have that. You know, I was unhappy at that time in the situation, and I wanted to free myself from it. And so once I was free, I was okay. But, you know, she didn't have the same vantage point or viewpoint or feelings or emotional state. So
not at all.
if you want to talk to
So,
that.
like far as for me, what Brian was just saying, it's not an easy task at all to co-parent well after a divorce. Definitely if you know, you have emotions all over the place. You got hurts, you got pains, you got regrets, you got shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and all of that. It's a lot. It's a lot. But I know what really helped me, and hopefully it can help somebody else. I had to come to a state where I had to let everything go, as far as the emotions or what I wanted, what I didn't want, how I felt like something should have went this way, should have went that way, this should have been said, this should have been done. I had to let it go, let it all go. And once I did that, then I was free. I was free to move on. I was free to be healed or start the healing process or journey, and then able to have a healthy co-parenting relationship with Brian. And I feel a lot of times that's the case with a lot of individuals that maybe go through similar things that we went through, is that they don't let it go. Just let everything go. If you was right, you was wrong. He was right, he was just all of it. Let it go and accept what it is at that moment. Accept where you guys are at. Accept the relationship that you have. Accept that what you wanted. Just accept it. Accept the current state. And once you do that, it's like a burden lifted off of you, and you can actually have a healthy co-parenting relationship. And I just like Ryan said, he knows several people that struggle with it. And I think that's one of the main reasons why people struggle with co-parenting with the ex, is not letting everything go. Let it all go and focus on that child. Focus on what's best for that child. Because what a lot of times we don't realize, when we don't do that, children, they know what's going on. So they know how you feel about the other parent. They know that, they feel the energy, they feel the vibes, they see the conversations, they see the reactions, and that eats them up in the inside. That tears them up, because guess what? They love mommy and daddy no matter what, because they're their family. Even though mommy and daddy is not together, they still love them. So to see, it tears a child up to see one parent acting this way towards the other parent and all of that. That tears them up in the inside. So it's like, why put your child or your children through such a thing because of a relationship you decided to be in or not be in? They have nothing to do with that. They should always feel love no matter whatever the environment is. The parents together or not, they should be growing up and being molded in a loving environment in both homes.
Absolutely.
So,
and that's key. You know, the emotional, physical, overall well-being of the child, and that's what was in the forefront of my mind when I did leave home 3 years ago, whatever the case may be. I knew I wasn't happy in the situation, and I knew I wanted to leave before I imparted serious pain by, you know, being out in the streets and doing whatever I wanted to do, and, you know, still living at home. And a lot of people, you know, were like, you know, you're taking the easy way out. And that was like one of the hardest decisions I've had to make in my life. And you don't know unless you've actually been in that situation. But I thought about my children a lot in regards to that situation, whether to stay or whether to leave. And in my opinion, it's always best to leave a situation that you're not happy in before you negatively impact not only yourself but the whole household. Because again, the kids can feel that tension, the kids can feel that negativity, the kids can feel that toxicity in the household when two parents are no longer either in love with each other or, you know, really seeing eye to eye, or even really desiring to be with one another to the point where they're actually working through whatever their issues are. If you stand for the kids, you actually do the children a disservice if you're not going to work on whatever issues that you guys have within that relationship. Because again, kids pick up on all of that energy, and what happens is they grow up thinking that that negative, toxic environment is normal, and then they go looking for relationships to replicate what they grew up with within their household. And that's where the danger comes in, because you don't want them to experience something that you know wasn't good, but you think you were doing it for their benefit, and it's actually in their disservice to have them in that environment. I was at a family function a few years ago, and you know, I always share whatever I can share with anybody to help them, you know, travel the seas of life or whatever you would call it. And you know, I was talking about, you know, where I was at and what I was going through, and she was saying, she was about 21. She was saying that her parents had recently got divorced, and that she wished they would have got divorced a long time ago because she had to deal with all that negativity within the household, all that tension, all that anger. And so whereas her parents thought they were doing her a favor by staying together and raising her in one household, from her own lips, she said that it would have been much better if they would have split, separated, and operated as a co-parent unit versus, you know, being in the same household. Because she said once they split up, everything was great as far as the emotional state of both parents individually as she had to deal with them. And so, you know, a lot of times I hear a lot of people anyway say that, you know, I'm just staying for the kids, and that sometimes can be almost one of the worst things you can do for the kids. Because
the reason is because you can't just stay. It's work will have to be done. Like if you really feel that way, you know, if a couple feel that way, we stand together for the children. You can't continue to do everything the same way. So if you want to stay, you want to make that decision, you know, stay for the children, all of that. That means something has to change, something has to be done. So that's where it can be a good thing if that's motivation, because that is possible to, you know, allow the children to be motivation for you to. But like I said, you have to want a better relationship with the other person. You have to want a better marriage. You have to want all those things and work towards it. And it wouldn't be easy, but it can be done. That's what I had to add with that. And then I'm gonna just keep it real because we've been open. I personally feel that. I don't know if that's what we really want to get into. I really feel that the marriage that we had was repairable. So I didn't feel as if we stayed together that would have just been unhappy and all of that stuff. I think I feel that love would have prevailed in the end. But
that is not what we're talking about.
That's what I said. No, but I had to say that because you was talking so much about when people say they stand together for the children. And then just that. And they still just had this messy, unhealthy relationship, not loving each other and all of that.
Both parties have to be
exactly
on the same page as far as repairing
right.
whatever was damaged or strengthening whatever is weak. Right. And I know personally I wasn't at that point. So it would have been torture for you, for me to stay
and
there.
I understand that.
And, you know,
I just had to share
go through
that.
The motions.
I just, you know, I didn't want to say, we didn't have to go too much in it, but I just wanted to share that that's where people go wrong when they're just like, okay, we in it for the children and that's it. Right. They're not willing to put in the work. Right. They're not willing to, you know, change some things and all of that stuff. They're not willing to operate out of love no matter what and all of that. So because if you're not going to do that, then that's when you're harming the children.
Absolutely.
You know, if you guys are not going to work towards a healthy relationship, just get out of it. Because no one is going to benefit from it.
Right. And as far as co-parenting, like I know a lot of guys that I talk to, you know, they're a little bitter because honestly, from a man's perspective, when you get a divorce, you become homeless, you lose half of your stuff, and oftentimes you lose your kids as well. In a sense, not 100% all the time, but in a sense, that's basically what happens for most men, because 9 times out of 10, it's the man that has to leave the home if he doesn't leave voluntarily. And the man is typically the one who ends up losing half or whatever it was that was amassed. And it's the man that, depending on how the mother wants to act, that ends up not interacting with his children as much as he actually may want to interact with his children. So for the man, it's like loss after loss after loss. Don't get me wrong, it's a loss for the woman as well. But it's different because she oftentimes doesn't have to move. She oftentimes may not be, you know, giving up half of her resources. And then most of the time she keeps the kids, so she gets to keep that relationship intact, whereas the man is not necessarily in that same position. So I know a lot of guys may be bitter because they're not able to spend the time with their kids that they would like to spend, or they may be bitter because they have to pay child support. And I've been paying child support since I was, 19, 20, so I've almost been paying child support more than I've been working, unfortunately. But it is what it is. So for men that have bitterness because of the child support, my suggestion is find a way to make more money. Because when you find a way to make more money, the money no longer becomes the issue, and then you can focus on what's important, and that's spending that time with that child. So if it's the money, find a way to make more money. And I know that's easier said than done, because I'm actually looking at several different ways to increase my income as well. But we can do all things that we put our mind to do. So if that's what the biggest situation or difficulty is for you, then I would definitely suggest finding ways to create more income. And as far as spending more time with your child, if you're having an issue with that woman, then you may have to go through the judicial system in order to get that time that you are rightfully
due to you.
So whatever it takes, you got to make sure that you do all that you can for your children. And if that woman is that bitter to where she's fighting you tooth and nail in regards to you spending time with your children, then you just have to fight, and don't give up that fight. I know it's easier said than done. It's costly, especially when you get lawyers and things of that nature involved. But it's definitely worth the fight. So that's just my recommendation. I know about that too. I went through that.
Not first, but
I went through that with my daughter's
But it's definitely
mom.
worth it in the end.
And to my ex's credit, she was the one that pushed me and encouraged me and motivated me to keep
you got a couple
going
of them.
through.
Let them know which one.
I said this ex that motivated me, encouraged me to keep going and keep fighting to get custody of my daughter. And at the end, we did prevail. I don't know how much damage was done at that point, but we did prevail, and so that was a blessing within itself. But from a male's perspective, women, if you got a man, ex-man, whatever you want to call them, I'm not talking about the superheroes, but if you got a guy that you've had children with and he wants to be involved in those kids' life, by all means, let him. It doesn't matter if he has the money to pay child support. Let him be with his kids or kid, because at the end of the day, it takes a village. And the village starts with the mom and the dad, and then it extends to, extended family and relatives and, the community and things of that nature. But it's enough men out here that don't want anything to do with their children. So if you got one that you've had children with or a child with that actually wants to spend time with that child, with those children, then by all means, please let him do it. Please, because at the end of the day, you're hurting the children. He's being affected by it, but the children are the ones who get hurt the most in the end, because children need a mother and a father. Not just a mother, not just a father. They need both sides of it. I know when I was raising my daughter, for the 3 years that I had her when she was very young, it was very difficult for me, because I'm a man. I don't know so much about being soft and tender and things like that. That's where a woman's touch comes in. So children need both the mother and the father, so they can take both the attributes of those two, and so that they can get the soft and tenderness on the one side, but then the toughness and the discipline from the other side. So please let the men see them babies.
Yes, me personally, I know quite a few men right now that's going through a lot of issues where they just want to see their children, and the ex-wife or the mother of the children giving them such a hard time for different reasons. Of what I want to string back to what I feel, them not letting go of different things, or it's sometimes what parents end up doing is that's the only thing they can control. They couldn't control that relationship with that person. They feel like so they can control that child, who sees that child, what, so that's their only way of controlling or getting to that other parent. So a lot of times they use their child as that weapon, and that is so that's so evil. That is so evil. And I just feel like if you really love your child, just think about, if you really love your child, you should want the best for your child. You should want your child to have all the healthy relationships they can have, and definitely with their parents,
Absolutely.
their other parent. That's something that you should want. So I know, for me, Brian can get this little one anytime, any day, anytime. But I always wanted to, regardless of how I felt at any time, I always wanted my son to respect, to honor, to love, to cherish, to look up, all of that, to look up to his father. No, regardless of the relationship that we had. or have or had. I always wanted that, and I just feel like that should be a natural thing for all parents to feel that way. That they want, just like you want your child to respect you, you should want your child to respect the other parent always.
Absolutely. And so even with dealing with your children, my son gets his mom, stuff for her birthday, stuff for Mother's Day. Of course, he ain't got no money, so it's my resources that he's spending, but I give them to him and I let him, do those things to show him how he should, treat and act towards his mom. And, when I do go to pick him up, sometimes, because kids act different with their mama than they do their daddy. That's another reason why you need both parents, because the father is oftentimes the disciplinary, and, the mom is everything else, so it seems, or at least in that child's eyes. So, sometimes when I come to pick him up and he acting the fool, I have to snatch him up and let him know that won't be tolerated. And if I even hear about it, I don't care whether I'm there or not. Either I will come there, or the next time I see you, you got consequences and repercussions to deal with. And that's really important that, we teach our children how to respect not only us as a parent, but the other parent as well, and teach them how to revere them, how to respect them, how to esteem them, so that they have healthy relationships. Because you're always going to teach your children how to deal with other people. You want to teach your children to call and check on mom, call and check on dad, grandparents, etc., so that they can have healthy relationships and healthy foundations to follow them throughout the course of their lives.
Totally agree. So it's just the same on my end. When it's a birthday or a Father's Day or anything, I make sure, because it's like that's a perfect time to teach or show your child how to honor that parent. Not only respect them, but honor them. Absolutely. So I always take advantage of that. And I've heard little comments. People like, "What? You doing what?" It's not about what I'm doing. It's through the child. It's for the child's benefit.
Absolutely.
And
I'm glad you touched on that, because you'll have a lot of people, we'll call them the peanut gallery, that'll, put their 2 cents in. Girl, you shouldn't do that. Girl, you shouldn't do that. Dude, you crazy. You shouldn't do that. Why you buying your baby mama flowers? Why you buying your baby mama? It's not the man per se. It is him, because it's his resources that he's supplying for that child to actually go and do those things. But it's all about teaching the child in the way in which they should go, so when they get older, they won't depart from it. Because at the end of the day, you always want your child to honor not only you as the parent, but the other parent as well. Because what can happen if you are always resentful towards that other parent, if you're trying to mold that child to resent that parent, what really ends up happening, and I've seen that firsthand myself, I won't go into that because that's a whole nother situation, but what ends up happening is that ends up backfiring. That child could very well end up hating the principal parent that was instilling that in them. They end up hating that parent and end up gravitating towards the parent that they tried to project all that negativity and hate on too. So you have to really be careful with that type of behavior, because like she said, it's just evil. It's unnecessary, and I don't know what the benefit is from it. So
temporary satisfaction, they feel like they get into
the other parent, they have some control or something.
And that's the only thing they control.
Right.
And that is the child.
Because they can't control the person, they can't control what they do. So they try to use the child to make the other person miserable, and it's unnecessary, and it's unfortunate. Hey Z.
I wanted to go back. I seen it. Auntie Sonia had said,
"Boy, you're gonna tell you be quiet. You're not here right now."
Oh, when you truly. I wanted to just go back to Auntie Sonia was saying, when you truly love someone, you can't be selfish. That means you have to let it go. So going back to what I was talking about earlier, just let it go. So even if you truly love them, even if you really want it, you really thought it would work out, all of that stuff, you have to let it go. Because if not, it's going to torture you. If not, it's going to hinder you. If not, you're going to be like in prison, seriously. And I'm speaking from experience. I know it's going to hold you back. It's going to hold you back. So once you'll feel so good after you letting everything go. Just let it all go, and then just take it for what it is, and have a nice, healthy relationship with the other parent that you're co-parenting, and just think what you're doing for your child. Them seeing that mommy and daddy not together, because again, like Brian was saying a minute ago, that's what it's really about, preparing them for all different type of relationships in their life. So even that a relationship went sour, but look, they can still talk. They can still do this. They can still function. They can still be in the same, environment without hating each other. And that's just letting them know they're gonna have a conflict with somebody else down the line. They're gonna see some type of conflict, but you still can communicate. You still can respect each other. You still can have a certain way about going about things instead of being nasty, being rude, being all that the other stuff. So it's not only so you're showing them a lot, and you're helping your child out for their future, and for them to be in position to know how to create and maintain healthy relationships throughout their life.
You brought something up that I want to touch on too, because like I said, this didn't develop overnight. She went through a lot emotionally, and she lashed out in several different instances. But I was very empathetic because I understood that she was hurt, and just because I wasn't in the same situation, because I was the one that initially made that decision, I was still empathetic of her and how she felt. And it took us a while to get here, because she'd go off on me and I'd just be like, okay, and not going about my business. Because, I'm real nonchalant anyway. And I can shake things off and not pay people no attention in a heartbeat. That's just the way I was wired from some things that I've dealt with over the course of my life. But what's really key, or what's really important, is that we can call each other on any given situation. Like, I had to call her one day and say, look, I'm not in a good place. I got all this stuff going on. I know I'm supposed to get him tomorrow, or whatever the case was. But I just really need a break. I'm working 6-7 days a week. I'm not getting proper rest, not eating good, whatever the case may be. And she's like, all right, I'll do that, and let me know, how you doing and all that stuff, because she does actually care about my well-being. Because again, I am attached to him, if for no other reason. And on the flip side of that, she's called me before, I'm tired, this, that, and the third. This boy getting on my nerves, whatever the case may be. And it might not be my day, it might not be my weekend, but, I have to move things around in my schedule, to accommodate. And we do that on a regular basis. My schedule got all flipped upside down to where I'm still, literally working every weekend. And so we do what we have to do to accommodate one another and our child. So if I work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and this is my weekend to have him, I will pick him up after I get off of work on Friday and drop him off that same night. Pick him up when I get off of work on Saturday, drop him back off that night. Pick him up when I get off Sunday and drop him back off that same night. Yes, it's a lot. It's a lot of wear and tear on me, on my vehicle, etc. But it's just what needs to be done, because she's making a sacrifice so that I don't have to worry about who's going to keep him while I'm working, so that he's not put in, a situation that might not be in his best interest. And conversely,
So I wanted to touch on why he was so that's one of the benefits of having a healthy co-parenting relationship. That's one of the benefits, being able to work together. So if you already laid that foundation out, you already have that type of relationship, you never know what life might throw your way or might come up, what type of shift you might get, all those things. So that's one of the benefits of having a healthy co-parenting relationship, that you guys can be flexible. You guys cannot. So, because if you don't have a healthy, well, I don't care. Right. I don't care. You better do what you got to do. I don't care.
Right. And so, you can end up putting your child in a not so beneficial situation if you are forcing that parent to do whatever needs to be done when you have the flexibility to make an accommodation in whatever shape, form, or fashion. So you don't want to be so pig-headed. It's your weekend, you better get him, you better get her, you better get them, because that other parent may have to put that child in a situation that is not ideal. Because at the end of the day, we all got to work, we all got bills to take care of, etc. And usually, if it's the man, he got to pay child support, so that money is being deducted off the top before he even get paid. They take child support, and he's dealing with what's left. Now, if he has to miss a day of work to keep his kids, because he has no one else to watch them, then he may feel desperate in leaving with somebody he may not have otherwise wanted to leave him with, but he has to, because at the end of the day, he still got responsibilities within his household that he has to take care of, and he's just trying to make all the pieces fit together. And so, sometimes we put the other parent in a situation where they have to put the children in a situation that is not necessarily in their best interest. And it don't have to be anything dangerous. I ain't talking about no drugs or guns or nothing like that. But it could just be an environment that's not healthy and positive. It could be a bunch of, cussing and adult conversations going on in front of children. When we were raised up, we couldn't sit in grown folks' face and listen to conversation. Nowadays, it's different. And, we try to raise our child a certain way. We ain't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But it's just certain things that, we don't try, or we try not to, have our child involved in. And, talking around adults is like one of them. So, but if she like, well, Negro, you better do whatever you're going to do or make it happen. And then I go and leave him at, somebody's house I just met a couple weeks ago, worst case scenario. And you don't really know what environment you subjecting your child to. So it definitely works and is beneficial to have a amicable relationship, as parents, as co-parents, and really work together to do what's in the best interest of the child.
Always.
When I talk to people, I always tell them, it's not about you, it's not about them, it's about what's in the best interest of the child. And if you focus on the best interest of the child, then you can allow yourself to be selfless and not think about what it is that you want or what you're feeling, but what's in the best interest of this child. And when you magnify that, everything else seems to minimize, and you can actually make a decision on what's actually in the best interest of that child. Buddy of mine was going through a situation, and he called me. He was hot. He was on fire. And, I let him rant. I listened to him. And then I asked him, is whatever the issue is that big of a deal to where it's going to really change your life? And the answer was no. I said, so let it go. Give her whatever it is she wants. And, I had been talking to that one individual, during the course of what I was going through. And, he was like, man, I just really admire you because, you really taking care of business and doing it in such a way to where you're being responsible. More responsible than the average person actually, would even consider being. And I told him that it's because I'm thinking about the well-being of my child, and his well-being is linked to her well-being, just like my well-being is linked to his well-being. So as co-parents, we have to work together to make sure that his best interests are being met at the end of the day. That's what's most important.
I wanted to touch on, it was something you were saying that made me think about when you were saying be careful of sometimes people in your circle might have some negative stuff to say, like, what, you doing that? Well, you moving like that? And most of the time those individuals that have that negative thought or thing to say, they don't come from a healthy co-parenting relationship or healthy parent relationships and things of that nature. But they were like, no, you shouldn't have to do all that. You shouldn't be doing all that. You shouldn't care nothing about that. He's not your responsibility. But again, have to go back to that child. Even though that mom and that dad is not together, that mom and that dad is still that child's family. At the end of the day, when that child think of family, guess who they think about? They think about mom, daddy, sister, brother, all that. So you're not necessarily one anymore, but in a sense, you're still family because you're that child's family. So if you just look at that even differently. So it should be, you guys should not be the enemy. I mean, each other's enemy. We got a lot of other stresses of life and demons and enemy, all type of stuff we need to fight. So why not have the relationship with that other parent as healthy as possible so it can be stress-free?
Or as stress-free as possible.
Or as stress-free.
Because there's still stress.
Yeah.
It's not perfect.
Well, because there's life, period.
It's just life.
Too.
Sometimes I don't... She may call me and say, I need you to come in. I'll be like, oh my God. I don't want to be bothered with this little Negro today. But, if I can humanly possibly do it, then I just do it because she extends the same courtesies to me. So on days when I don't feel like doing it, I'm like, well, look at last week when, you needed her to do X, Y, and Z and she did that. So how can you turn around and you can do it? How do you look saying, oh, I can't do it? Or lying and saying I can't do it? So, being upfront and honest and forthcoming is another part of that co-parenting relationship.
And knowing them, because what can happen, because I experienced it several times, like other friends or other people were making comments like, oh, he probably just lying because he just want to go do this and do that. He talking about he got to work. He probably lying on. If it's his weekend, if it's his day, let him have his kid. But that's why it's important for you to know that person and already have a decent relationship with that person. So you don't, because people will put all type of stuff in your mind and in your ear. Oh, they just using, they just playing you, they just give you anything because they think you nice. I've heard, you'd be surprised how many times I heard people say that to me.
I could imagine, but that's like, based off of their experience.
Exactly, and it's in other experiences that they've been exposed to or witnessed. So they feel like everybody operate like that. Right. Everybody a liar. Everybody deceiving. Right. Everybody out for themselves. You know, a lot of people, feel that way. So you have to know for yourself. And you have to be strong enough to, at the end of the day, do what's best for your situation. Absolutely. And not let other people influence you in a negative way because, like we just said, what they experienced or what they've been exposed to.
Right. Don't get me wrong. It's crossed my mind. Be like, I gotta work knowing I ain't got to. This little boy is, man, he a piece of work at times. But, that's really not my character, my nature anyway. But, again, that goes back to knowing that the person that you're dealing with and being able to, be open and honest and even vulnerable to a certain degree to let that person know what you're going on. Because the worst thing you could do is, go through something all by yourself. Right. Even if that's the only person available to lean on, so to speak, especially as it relates to the overall well-being of your child. Sometimes it may be necessary.
You proud of us, Z? Oh, we proud of you too. Like she the parent. Right. I'm proud of you guys.
So I think we're gonna stop it there. We're going on 45 minutes because we was 15 minutes late starting. But again, at the end of the day, we just wanted to share a little bit of our experiences, our story, in hopes that it would help somebody else. Because like she said, she know a lot of people that's having issues with mother of their children. And I know a lot of guys as of late that have been having a lot of issues with the mother of their children. So I thought it was necessary to have this conversation, to just share our story with how we're able to do what it is that we do. And again, it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not difficult either. It's just a growing process, a growing part of life. And
what makes it not difficult is when you focus on that child. Absolutely. When you focus on what's in the best interest of that child at all times, not about how you feel or, it's not about you. When you keep that focus on that child, it'll make it much easier to be able to have that relationship with that other parent.
Absolutely.
That's what it really boils down to. So we just wanted to encourage anyone that needs to be encouraged that through all this, the hurt, like I said, the hurt, the pain, the struggle, and all that, if you have to separate yourself from that in order to, again, do what's best for your child at the end of the day. And you won't regret it. You won't regret it because, for one, now you're molding and raising a healthy child and in a healthy way.
Absolutely. So, don't know if this would actually air on YouTube because I'm not the most technologically advanced person, and trying to get just this set up has been more than a notion. And on top of having to go to the funeral today. So, just a lot going on as with any given day. But I'm glad, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to actually sit down and do this. At the end of the day, it's just about being a blessing to somebody. If one person was touched by this share, then it was worth it. Mm-hmm. I had a young lady message me yesterday that I used to work with. And, she asked me how I was doing. I told her I was doing good. I asked her how she was doing. She said she was doing good. And that she just really wanted to, that she had been watching me and my posts and, whatever it is I'm talking about on any given day. And just how she's appreciative of it and how it's helped her, get through some of the difficulties in her life. And, I really, really, really deeply appreciate that. And she was just one person. So if only one person is helped, touched, moved, has a paradigm shift, a different perspective, then the mission was accomplished. Because at the end of the day, we just want to be a blessing to those who may need, this share, as I call it. So thank you guys for checking in. Love you, Auntie. Love you, Z. And whoever else there may be.
Yeah, somebody has said hi to you.
Hey, Karen in the UK. Good to see you. Jamila. Hey, Five Links. How you doing?
5 links. How did you do that one? How did it go?
Right.
How did the 5 links go?
Just that. So we love you guys. We thank you guys for taking time out of your schedule to rock with us. And we hope you guys have an awesome, fabulous evening. Take care.
Take care.